Okay, let's just dive right into this. We're looking at a highly anticipated World Cup final that, honestly, quickly morphed into a wild tale of two entirely different worlds. Everyone was watching MetLife Stadium expecting a pure showcase of the beautiful game, right? But what actually unfolded was something completely different. In this explainer, we're going to break down the incredible highs and the absolute chaotic lows of a match that people are literally going to be talking about for decades.
Part 1. Beautiful versus dirty football. You see, this match wasn't just your standard championship game, it fundamentally became this massive clash of opposing philosophies. This wasn't just about who scored more goals, it was a battle over how the game itself should be played. We ended up seeing the ultimate juxtaposition here. On one hand, you had Spain playing this gorgeous, beautiful game, acting as absolute masters of the ball. On the other hand, Argentina in the heat of the moment, they completely lost their moral and tactical compass. And honestly, thank goodness football won in the end, just like all the commentators were saying.
Moving on to Part 2, Spain's Possession Masterclass. Let's actually look at the underlying numbers that defined this absolute tactical brilliance from Luis de la Fuente's squad.
Spain commanded a truly staggering 65% of the ball possession. I mean, from the very first whistle, they didn't just play the game, they dictated every single rhythm of it. They completely starved their opponent to the ball, basically forcing Argentina to just chase shadows for the vast majority of the match. It was wild to watch.
And you know, this dominance translated directly into their offensive output. Just look at this crazy disparity. Spain peppered the goal with 20 shots, 12 of them right on target. Argentina, 0. Nothing. For the very first time in World Cup final history, a team failed to register a single shot in regular time. Not one. That's a staggering statistical anomaly, and it just perfectly captures how thoroughly outplayed the Argentine side was over those 90 minutes.
But hey, it wasn't just all attacking flair. Their defensive steel was equally historic. Unai Simon and that backline conceded just one single goal the entire tournament. One. That is the fewest ever by a winning team in the entire history of the competition. They were literally an impenetrable fortress back there.
And when you zoom out to look at the bigger picture, the context is even more mind-blowing. They rode in on a 38-match unbeaten streak. This juggernaut proved they are absolutely the undisputed kings of the earth right now, concurrently holding the World Cup, the Olympic gold, and the European Championship. It's a level of dominance that firmly places this specific Spanish squad right into the history books as one of the absolute greatest we've ever seen.
So that brings us to Part 3, Argentina's World Cup meltdown. Because as Spain ascended into the history books, the contrast couldn't be sharper. To really understand how a world-class team unravels on the biggest stage imaginable, we've got to look at those final minutes.
The meltdown truly ignited right at the 93rd minute. Enzo Fernandez, who was already sitting on a yellow card for dissent, goes in with this completely reckless, sprawling tackle on Cubarsi. The referee has absolutely no choice, second yellow, then red. And that's actually the 6th red card in final history. This meant Argentina had to play all of extra time with just 10 men. Then, when that final whistle finally blew, cementing the 1-0 Spanish victory, the thin veil of professionalism just completely snapped. An ugly, embarrassing brawl erupted, which was initially sparked by Nahuel Molina slapping Spain's captain Rodri right during the celebrations.
Then Leandro Paredes basically goes full villain mode with this sequence of completely cynical aggressions. I mean, he punched Eric Garcia, shoved Gavi to the ground, and even grabbed Garcia by the throat. It was so chaotic that Paredes was actually sent off after the match had already officially ended. The whole situation was just so out of control that Argentina's own manager, Lionel Scaloni, literally had to be held back by Spanish players while he was trying to separate his own men. Unsurprisingly, the reaction from the wider footballing world was swift and, frankly, pretty severe. Pundits were rightly fuming at this display. It was all perfectly summarized by these really harsh assessments from former players. Micah Richards flat out called it embarrassing. Joe Hart labeled it disgusting. And Wayne Rooney, a guy who certainly knows all about the gritty side of the game, demanded that they be graceful in defeat. But rather than showing that grace, the Argentine team made a collective decision that resulted in a deeply humiliating exit. They actually turned their backs on the podium during Spain's presentation. So it wasn't just a loss on the scoreboard. It was a complete and total abandonment of sportsmanship on a massive global broadcast. Which leads us to Part 4, the bizarre podium spectacle. Because, you know, the chaos of the evening wasn't strictly limited to the players on the pitch. We've objectively got to examine the fascinating factual anomalies of the podium ceremony itself.
It really added a whole other layer of surrealism to the night.
The very moment Donald Trump walked out onto the pitch alongside FIFA President Gianni Infantino, the atmosphere shifted drastically. A massive wall of boos from the over 80,000 fans in attendance pushed the stadium noise to a truly deafening 84 decibels.
After handing over the trophy, Trump kind of lingered to smile with the Spanish players and attempted to join their moment, before eventually being physically ushered away by Infantino. It was definitely a notable reception for a figure who, remember, had previously lobbied FIFA to reverse a red card for the U.S. team earlier in the competition. It certainly made for an unforgettable and highly unconventional trophy presentation, to say the least.
All right, Part 5, Messi's tragic farewell. Let's just slow the pace down for a second here. Amidst all the brawling and these bizarre spectacles, we really need to focus on the one man who is left standing right in the eye of this chaotic storm, Lionel Messi.
Given absolutely zero room to breathe by Spain's suffocating defense all match, the 39-year-old legend was kept completely peripheral. His only real moment of quality was blocked by Marino. As the reality of the situation set in, Messi was reduced to floods of tears while receiving his runner-up medal. This was his sixth and almost certainly his final World Cup appearance. It was just a genuinely heartbreaking visual for football fans everywhere.
And I think the true tragedy of this final lies right in this stark contrast. On one side, you have the team engaging in this cynical, petulant display of brawling, and on the other, Lionel Messi, just sitting there on the field, dejected but dignified, quietly watching Spain celebrate. His quiet heartbreak contrasted so sharply with the moral and tactical collapse of his teammates. He really showed the class that the rest of the squad, at least on that night, simply lacked.
Ultimately, Spain absolutely deserved this victory. Beautiful football, played with heart, skill, and incredible discipline, won the day. But, this explainer leaves us with some massive questions, and I'd love to hear from you in the comments. Based on all the facts we've just walked through, was Argentina's behavior a disgrace to their badge? And from a purely objective standpoint, should a sitting president be part of a sports trophy presentation at all? Drop your thoughts below. It's a fascinating debate. Thanks so much for joining me to unpack this wild event and keep exploring the incredible stories behind the data.